could all hear the presenter, and I'll just get things started here now that we're at the top of the hour, as we have a few more people joining as we move forward. Today, we're going to continue on with our series of virtual training with the various stow systems. Today, we're going to be talking about the MVES, that's Masonry Veneer Engineered System. And the E, the engineered in that acronym, indicates that this is an integral part of the various stow cladding systems. I think we're going to be focusing on the Stowtherm CI, which is the stow EIFS system, but this can be applied to the other stow cladding systems, such as our Powerwall stucco and other cladding systems. So this is yet another finish option that our customers have to do more with stow and own the wall is the tagline that we've been using a lot, but it's not just a tagline. We're putting a lot of energy behind creating these different options so that our customers can have the widest aesthetic range of finishes on their building while still utilizing the stow cladding systems and the engineered performance that you get, whether it's water, weather, moisture, thermal, drainage, all the components that go into a properly engineered cladding system. And as everyone, I'm sure on this call knows, that the installation of that system in the field is critical in maintaining the performance that we've designed into these systems. So that's why we're spending this time having these virtual training sessions, so that in lieu of meeting with you face-to-face and being able to show you hands-on how these systems are installed, while we have these restrictions on travel in certain markets, we're going to utilize this virtual training in the meantime. So I have muted everyone. You can unmute yourself if you want to ask a question through this. Feel free to do that. There's also a chat button that you can use to ask questions, which we will monitor throughout the meeting session or the training session. And we'll either answer those on the fly or answer those towards the end. But don't be shy about asking a question verbally or through the chat function. So I'm going to turn it over to Yogi Shinkowski, who is doing the training today. Yogi's done some of the other trainings earlier, so many of you are familiar with Yogi. He's at our Toronto Sales Center in the training facility. And Yogi, I'll make you the presenter so you can take control. Make the host.
All right, can everybody hear me? Bob, everything's good?
Yes, I can hear you.
That's the first part of it.
One more thing, Yogi. If you want to see Yogi and the background and what he's doing on the main screen or as a large window, right-click his picture and pin. You can pin to your screen, which will make him the dominant picture. Go ahead, Yogi.
Dominant picture. That's it.
That's it. I'll leave it at that.
The dominant one. Okay, good morning, everybody. We're just here to show you another system that we came up with recently. Well, it's been in the process of engineering for, I'm going to say, probably 1.5 to 2 years now. The first thing we're going to start is you start off as a typical EIFS Pro D system in Ontario and most of the other provinces. First of all, we started with our air barrier, which is our Stowguard system. Then we're going to go to adhere the foam. Generally with our turbo stick, you're going to hear us pushing that a little bit more too as well, as usual. And then you go to your foam, your mesh, embed your base coat, and that's where you come into the MVES system. Now the next step after your base coat is on, this has been pre-done. I'm just going to make there so I can see myself, get a better understanding of what you guys are seeing. So what we have here is our fasteners, proprietary fasteners that we've engineered this system to. These are also our countersunk washers. They're not metal. They're not from some other manufacturer. They're from us, as well as these fasteners are. And what we do with these, and you can see we have our own Torx bit. I think it's a T35 bit that we're going to fasten in through the base coat and through the mesh. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put them 16-inch on center. No more, no less. And you're going to have to hit a stud. So you're going to be a little bit sunken in to the base coat. It shouldn't crack on you. It's pretty flexible. Put the next one. "16 inches apart as well." That part is done. You can check it if you want with the flat side of your trowel. Make sure it's not sticking out too much. That one's good. That one's for later. Then your next step is you take your adhesive mortar, which is our Stokohl KM. Now our KM is an adhesive from Germany that they've been using for years for some other types of systems that it will be in our spec to adhere your stone. The stone that you can put on, I believe, is up to 5/8 of an inch thick and can go up to the size of 2 feet by 24 inches by 36 inches. Now that might change as the spec grows and gets refined. But for now, that's where it stands. Now all I'm going to do is, I started out with a level line ahead of time. This is why I put this molding on here. I created roughly a 1/2 inch mortar joint from a head. I went ahead and did this last week because you do have to wait 7 days before you put your grout in and clean it all up and point everything. And your grout sizes can be anywhere from 3/8 of an inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4, 5/8, 3/4. I don't see too much 3/4 with smaller stone. You see that generally a bigger stone. I'm going to get my trowel and put some on the wall right now. The first step when you go to the wall is you have to wet this wall out. So this wall you cannot notch trowel it right away. You have to put some on. You don't have to pre-treat these washers again like in other systems, like our mineral wool system you would. But you're just going to wet this out. From there, now the wall has been wetted out, we can now take our notch trowel get some more material on there. Now you can see I'm running these grooves right now and installing it just because it's easier for me. Vertically, what we want to see is the trowel, the notches run horizontally. So that part's done. Now you want to work in generally small areas, especially on a warmer day in the summer, especially if you're working in the sun. You're going to want to, I'm just going to put some gloves on because I always get dirty. You're going to want to make sure you can work in an area that you can keep up to. Not that I can keep up to, because a lot of people are faster, a lot of people are slower, perfectionists, whatever your quirks are or what your speed of work is. What we're going to do here is just put these same ones that are on here, and these are roughly 7 3/4 by 2 1/4. So I'm just going to put this on here like this, but I'm not going to put it in the spot where it's going to go. I'm just going to put it a little bit higher, push it in. As I'm bringing it down, I'm going to push it in to its final spot. Now, I usually use my fingers to give me the 1/2 inch mortar joint size. And then I'm going to keep on going. And you can see as I'm putting them in, they're not sagging. And this is a pretty strong adhesive to put this on. And again, I'm using my fingers as a guide for the grout size that we will do 7 days later, but today we're going to do it on the top 2 rows today. And it goes pretty quick once you get everything moving along. And if you want to, every course that you lay, you can go with a straight edge after, see how you're doing. See, I just picked this one up. This one was a little low. And as you move along, we're going to want you to grab one that I just installed. Try and take it off because it is stuck on there pretty good. Make sure there's no voids, real voids in here. I'm going to put on another row. The one thing I did forget, because this is new to most people, as well as myself, I did forget to back butter that first row. Just like we did well at the wall, we had to do the same for this. Any questions so far?
Hey, Yog, what notch trowel are you using there?
Right now I'm using a 1/4 by 3/8 by 1/4, which is the size that is recommended for this thickness of tile. The pounds per square foot for the, sorry, not tile, for the brick. This can also be used for tile as well. I believe it's 9 pounds per square foot, which is far underneath that. I will be putting on bigger stones in a minute with the same size trowel. And the one thing that I do want to point out is that these stones, these veneers are not stoves. So you can have freedom to use whatever manufacturer you prefer, as long as it falls within the weight guidelines and the size guidelines. Now these obviously pre-cut ahead of time. I just use a cold chisel, not precision, but for speed it's there. And that's how we do the smaller sizes of the MVES. Now I do have a bigger size that I'm going to have to put more adhesive on the wall.
While you're doing that, Yogi, how long is the open time of that adhesive typically?
It's going to depend on your humidity and your the temperature that you're in. If you're out in cool weather, it's gonna stay open for a long time. But the hotter and hotter it gets, it'll skin over quicker, just like any base coat or adhesive will. And then if you do that, it does have to come off the wall. Now I'm gonna go ahead and keep going with this notch trowel. Because I do have another size. That we do want to try today. And if you do have a flashing on the bottom, which I do and you guys can't see, I'm hoping, you are going to want to protect that with some tape. I'm going to try. Can you guys still see it yet? So this is another size. We know this is done well. We've done it to my right a few weeks ago. Again, you're going to want to back butter this as well. And that one's there. Now I have another size here that we can keep going and bigger and bigger and bigger. I have this size here. We did a couple weeks ago. This one is 13 by 9.5. Then we have our large size, which is 12 by 24. Now this is, the bigger you go, the more work it's going to take and the more time it's going to take, especially when you have to back butter quite a bit. So if I'm back buttering something like this, that size, I'm just going to spread it. Put a dollop on the back upside down and use the flat side of my trowel.
We can't see the table, Yogi. Are you getting 100% coverage on the back of that stone?
I am getting 100%. I can't lift this one and butter the back of it at the same time because it is relatively heavy. So this guy is going to go on the wall now.
Bob, just to answer the question on the open time, the KM application is between +5 degrees Celsius and +30 degrees Celsius. And based on a 20 degrees Celsius, you're approximately 60 to 90 minute open time. Or I'm sorry, yeah, open time is approximately 30 minutes measured on fresh mortar. Correction time is approximately 15 to 20 minutes.
Got it. Thanks, Tim.
You can see I got that large piece on there. It is not sagging too bad. It doesn't fully go onto the EPS that I had pre-done because we got this wall ready before we had the size of the stone that our manufacturer is going to give to us. But it's staying on there, and it's a pretty heavy stone that you guys can see. That is bigger than my head, which is pretty big. So once all these steps are done, you do have to go wait for 7 days. It is recommended that you do take a tool and you scrape out any excessive mortar that's in there left over from the notches. And then you grab your mortar bag. This one's brand new, so I'll have to work it in a little bit. I'm just going to spin up the mortar that we have here one more time, just quickly. Sorry for the delay. I didn't bring another bucket scoop, so I'm using a little margin trowel to load it in.
Just to add a little bit, the Stokoe KM, it's a dry mix base coat. It comes in a bag, and you just mix it with water like you would any of our other dry mix. And you mix it with the right ratio with the twisty mixer paddle. You let it set up or buck, and then you break the set. And it's very creamy and smooth. It applies really nice, and you really feel the suction right away as you're installing the stone. So it's a dry mix, and if you can mix base coat, you can mix the Stokoe.
So thanks, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Now the slurry that we have in here is our own. This is the one that you can option out and get your own, or you can stick with those and keep going with that. We only have two colors right now. This one, which is, I'll say beige, and then I believe the other one is just a dark gray. That is available to us. Or you're just going to pipe it in. This bag did not come with different size application nozzles at the end. Bear with me. But as we did it, what I'd say 2 weeks ago, Matt?
Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago.
It does set up fairly quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels just like a sanded grout wood, like your typical sanded grout for veneer stone. So you can get a metal tip for the bag if you want a small one, or you can even cut the end of the bag with a scissors if you need to apply into a bigger mortar joint. But you apply it just like any other sanded grout.
No, I'm not going to do the whole wall.
Yogi, while you're doing that, you mentioned you have to wait 7 days for the brick and the adhesive to cure before you treat that mortar joint.
Yeah.
While those 7 days are transpiring, do you have to protect the wall from moisture, or how do you?
Do not want any moisture getting behind that, correct? So it's better to be protected, either just with a tarp attached to the wall, or whatever. If you got scaffolding up there, that could be protected as well. Now I'm gonna pipe this last bottom row. Gosh, that's the new stuff. I can't do that.
So the slurry, when you mix it, you want it to be very loose. You almost want to, when you put it in the mortar bag, you want to hold the bag up and it kind of drips out of the end. You don't want it to be thick, otherwise it will be extremely hard. You're going to have Popeye forearms. The looser, the better.
And nothing's wrong with some Popeye forearms if you want them.
So you want it to be sticking just slightly proud of the face of the veneer, so that when you strike it, you actually have material to drop off and to tool. If it's too recessed, then your striking tool is not really gonna do much to it. So just slightly past the edge of the veneer.
And there we go. See, I just went back to that part right there, and it's already starting to set up and create its own, well, it's going to create the bond and create the texture that you want before you hit it with your striking tool, with your joint tool, whatever have you. And we'll go back after and clean it up with a mason brush. But that's essentially it. I can let this set up for about, say, 5 to 10 minutes, and then you go back and hit it so you don't, a lot of this mortar doesn't drop out onto the ground as you're pushing it in. Let it set up and roll along with it.
Okay. A good thing when you're doing a grout is to do the thumb test. So if you can stick your thumb in the joint and it doesn't stick to your finger, then you know it's around ready to go. So if you can get it and you can you see your thumbprint in the mortar, then and it's still somewhat loose, then it's usually ready to strike at that point. But you don't want it sticking to your finger.
Yeah, still sticking. And it's still wet, and it's gonna go as the way I went down the wall. You can have someone follow you as you're going. You can have one guy that's grouting. It's definitely different than laying brick, that's for sure. Some of you guys, I'm guessing, have done this already, and we'll probably have a couple pointers for myself and for Matt and anybody else here, and that's fine. We are open for that and can listen and understand that. So if anybody has anything to say, please let me know. I think there's a question there, Bob.
No, I think we've covered anything that's come up on.
Just mute button.
Yeah.
Just one thing, I don't know if we covered it. Did you talk about the mesh that needs to be used?
No, the 6 ounce.
Mm-hmm. So you can't. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that we did not. We don't use the 4.5 ounce mesh on this. We do use 6 ounce mesh on this system in the MVES. And as I mentioned earlier, when the spec gets out, a lot of the details will be worked out with this system. Biggest ones are the 6 ounce mesh, these washers, these screws, our adhesive, stone of your choice and mortar of your choice. But other than that, it'll still fall under the warranty for us. As long as it meets the weight and size restrictions, you're good to go. Now, Bob, I did prepare, while this grout is setting up, I did prepare to show the Ecoshapes, if we wanted to show that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because just to emphasize what you were saying, that if you go to look on our Stow Canada website for this specification, you won't find it today. You guys are getting a sneak peek of something that's not official or officially launched yet in Canada, but it will be over the next couple of months. You'll see all the documentation, including the full specification, which gives you all those details about how it's applied and the components that go into it. The key points there, as Yogi says, you can use any thin veneer, masonry veneer, within the size limitations. I think he said 3 foot by 2 foot. And the weight limitation is 9 pounds per square foot right now in the current draft of the specification. So that would encompass most thin veneers. And there are local jurisdictions that govern the use of masonry veneers or thin brick or masonry veneers. And in some cases, or a lot of those cases, they're restricted to use within 6 meters of grade. So basically the first and second floor. And you can see this is a fairly labor intensive process, getting this thin veneer on the wall. And the materials, the veneers themselves, are probably more expensive than you would typically see in a EIFS application. So when you get into the 3rd, 4th floor and up, what we are recommending is that you match the Ecoshape brick to your veneer brick or veneer stone, or find an Ecoshape color that complements that. It doesn't have to match exactly, but we can match. And then you're putting a more cost-effective system on those higher floors where you're not as close to the veneer, the masonry veneer. And you don't have the restrictions that come along in a lot of jurisdictions in Canada with masonry veneers and where you can use them. Once you move into the Ecoshape option, you don't have those limitations. So it's good to show that as well, Yo.
Yeah, and you can see in the chat part, if you have that open, Greg Jeffries put down, the minimum you can do this on an EPS system is the minimum EPS system you're allowed to do. Is that 2-inch, and the max we're allowed to do is up to 4. It says four stories or 4 feet, but every province is going to have its own, and every municipality, tongue twister for myself, is going to have its own, like Bob was saying, requirements for height restrictions. So that's it. But this Ecoshape, I'm sure you guys have seen these before. That one doesn't have too much texture on it. Neither does this one. This one's a little bit, I like this one just because of color. But it's really simple. This one's really simple to install. You have your wall ready. You lay out your courses again, whatever bond you're going to be running. This one, you don't have to wet out the wall. You just put it on your notch trowel. Now you're ready to start laying some Ecoshapes. These ones basically the same thing. They're way lighter, way easier to work with. And extremely easy to cut. Well, the way this worked out was kind of perfect. So I didn't have to cut any. But I do have these snips here. And I just take one Ecoshape. Generally, I would use a speed square to keep the straight edge. It's cut with a pair of heavy-duty snips that I just picked up at your favorite home store. I'm going to cut 1 1/2. And again, I'm going to use my fingers as a guide to my 1/2-inch size grout joint. And again, straight edge again to check out the joints later to make sure everything's nice and level. And this way, you're also allowed to run your notches vertically. And that's as simple as they get. The other part of these Ecoshapes too is they do come with pre-manufactured corners, right? And most of your veneers that you're going to get will come with pre-manufactured corners as well. So corners are always thought of as an issue or a challenge or up for debate on how to complete them with our wood veneers, which we've done in the past. You guys have seen that I've done that. If you guys want to see the wood veneers, I think I can get Greg to put up, or Bob to put up the link to the wood veneer one that we did on YouTube. I'm going to say 3, maybe 4 weeks ago, maybe more. My mind is escaping time, and I'm sure a lot of ours are with this, the way we are in this world. So when Ecoshapes are on the wall, these are how many brushes we went through and are still going through to find the perfect brush. Everyone's going to act a little bit different. I like these ones. And I have a little bit of water. Then all you're gonna do is take this brush. You're gonna dampen the brush, not soak it, and you're just gonna brush out these joints. And it's nice, clean look. And I still haven't found a better brush than this, and these are the ones, the smallest one you can buy at your Lowe's or your Home Depot. And you just brush it out. The one I did find that worked best for Ecoshapes, works well too, is this one that I stole from my wife's makeup case that she is probably looking for, but I'm not telling her yet that I have it. And she might think other stuff too, but that's fine.
Yeah, your wife's makeup case, sure.
Yeah.
It's not just her thinking it, yo.
Ah, that's fine. That's my joke for the day. Well, you can see the speed of the Ecoshapes. You do not have to wait 7 days to clean up these joints. In Europe, that was a little wet.
So I posted that link to the stove veneer wood training session that we did a couple months ago, and we'll also make sure that this video is also posted on that Stowe Canada YouTube page under our training video section.
Yeah, and the training for this Ecoshapes and the veneer, if you have some guys on the wall that aren't familiar with it, this is really simple. This you're going to need a little bit more thought to do, but at the end of the day, these products, well, the Ecoshapes are one of my favorites in the wood veneer. The MVES system that we're launching, all three of these systems are designed and manufactured and created to have one installer on the wall at one point from the air barrier out. So you don't have to leave the site for a mason to show up. You don't have to leave the site for the guy putting the metal look, or sorry, the wood look metal panels up. You don't have to share these products and these systems that we're talking about. They're there to keep you guys on the wall longer and make more money and be more profitable at the end of the day. And I haven't met anybody yet that doesn't like money. So I know I do, but I'm going to go ahead and strike these joints out now.
While you're doing that, Yogi, I'll mention that the builders that we have had discussions with about these other products that are allowing their EIFS applicators to do more of the building, more of the wall. The ones we've had discussions with, and we're having these discussions now weekly, they're very responsive. Almost all of them are very responsive to the concept of reducing the number of trades that they need to bring onto their wall to get the wall completed. They're very happy to hear they can do more or all of their wall in some cases with just one trade. So you probably find you'll get a similar response when you're talking to your builders.
And I'd point out for probably more for the Western, those in Western Canada, since traditional, where we see stucco systems as well, our power wall drain screen system can also be utilized with the masonry veneer. So it's not just an EIFS option. You can also do the Stowe power wall or Stowe power wall drain screen with the masonry veneer system.
Good point.
That part's done, then you get your masonry brush. All right, you brush off the excess that you got there. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a lot of Just touch up where you have to go touch up. Now, these veneers that we have are a rougher type of veneer. They're not smooth. They're not square. But that's it. Any questions? And I know we had the question a couple weeks ago when we did the, I think it was the Ecoshapes. If you have tie-ins for your scaffolding, again, you just leave one of these out. Wherever your tie-ins are, you can go back. You're not going to leave the notches on the wall for either, if it's Ecoshapes or if it's the MVES system. You just leave it out, come back, and then put it in later. You just might want to pay attention to the mixture of your mortar, so it does stay the same consistency, same color. I can't see it being that much different. I don't think anybody can. You can see over years, over time. Yes, there is a difference in mortar as the environmental rain, dust and dirt get to it. Yeah, there is a difference in mortar color there, no matter what. You just can't avoid it. With this, you actually can avoid it probably a little bit, because these shapes it's a formula. They're not going to be discontinued. So we're always going to be able to make this and this. If we do this, we're going to be susceptible to our manufacturers that you guys are going to use, or your customers or your clients are going to request, or you provide whatever facet type of the industry you're in on this call for. It's a pretty neat system. So in all of these systems, again, they're all engineered by us. They're not a screw from Home Depot, a washer from somewhere else, a piece of mesh from here or something from there. It's not a Frankenstein system. Every system that we do is engineered by us and tested. I'm going to say 3 times tested through different facilities, and as well as ourselves, probably tested more through ourselves. And then we go ahead and apply it to the wall. And then we test it again with our own internal, we'll just say in Canada, where we have different requirements that we need than the US does. So the US can test it, then it gets tested up here. It's already tested in Europe. So I really don't have a number to how much this is tested, but it's pretty well proven to create this system to be able for you guys to use it on a wall. So there should be a lot of confidence there. And as for cost, the cost is going to be the same as much as an EAF system. The up and down price is whatever your customer, your client picks for their veneer. But you're always going to make it. This one is going to be more labor than this one, possibly, because you have a lot more grout to fill here. Here you don't. And we're not pulling, like that's a 1 foot by 2 foot piece of stone we hung on the wall that hasn't fall off. So we're not hiding anything from you guys as well. Okay, any questions? Or any pointers? I was just going to say, Matt, any pointers, any other add-ons that they should know?
One thing with the grout, like we're saying, you can use whatever your preferred mortar or grout is for the joints, but we also have our own options. Like you used our slurry there, and we also have a dry pack option.
Yeah, the dry pack, we don't have the proper tools to set up for that, but it's good to mention it. Which is why I didn't show it, but it is a dry pack. It's not you can't put it in a bag. It's done on a certain type of hawk, which we're still trying to source or create. But that is another way of doing it, especially when you have a raw face brick instead of one with a glaze. If you have a glazed face brick, which is a good point, Matt, to lead into this. If you have a glazed face brick that is clear, has a sealer on it, you can take this slurry with a float, and you can float it on and just push it out, and then you can come back with your tools later and point them out, or you could take your grout sponge and do that, whatever the look you're going for. But for a non-glazed brick that's really open like this and porous, that grout would just fall right on top of it. It would change the whole look of the brick that you have there. But if it's glazed, like this one does have a glaze to it, nice and smooth. You can't really see it from this camera, but it doesn't have a gloss to it. I can't really hold it at an angle to show you, but that one would be one that you could possibly use the slurry as a grout, which is the slurry is the one we have here. This is called Stow-Cole FMS. The dry pack is called Stow-Cole FMK. The adhesive is called Stow-Cole KM, and this will be provided in the spec, in the system bulletin. If you guys want to run with the whole system and everything, that's fine. I would love it. We would all love it, and we can go from there.
Yogi, a question that's come up is if it gets dirty, how do we clean it?
If it gets, sorry?
If it gets dirty.
That's going to be up to the manufacturer of your actual veneers. Normally you can, every time they put brick or masonry up on a house, they go up and power wash it after anyway. This should just be easy to get a quick power wash to it. You can't get really heavy duty cleaners anymore because of the environmental impact that some of the solvent cleaners had for cleaning brick. You don't want to use too much acid because you can etch the brick and it'll change the look of it. I know on my house, I use Simple Green. Simple Green, I buy it in the big jug and I just dilute it and I scrub it on with I use a car wash brush, which I use for everything because I don't want to damage too much. And Simple Green works for me. And to me, you really don't even need a power washer. You can just use your garden hose, a car wash brush, or a heavier bristle brush like a deck brush. That'll clean it up. It should clean it up. If you're going to need, if you have graffiti on there, that's a totally different story. You have to get it soda blasted or whatever other type of environmental they got. We had another one there the other day that Tim sent off. I don't even know what type of system that was, but it was pretty neat. So, but how does putting the fasteners affect the gold coat or vapor seal? So our gold coat and vapor seal have been through an air leakage test, and I believe that is in our product bulletin for our gold coat. Compared to our house wraps that are on the market right now, gold coat is, I would say, tested better because of the liquid applied. The house wraps, when they state that they pass the air leakage test, that they're hoping that the fibers wrap around the fastener that goes in there. But when it's a nail, how do you do that? It doesn't wrap around nothing, but it does self-seal with fasteners.
Yeah, it's self-sealing and unless you back it out. That's why you have to hit the stud.
Yeah.
If you screw it in and miss it and back it out, then obviously there's going to be a hole there that maybe you have to inject rapid guard into or something like that.
Put some rapid.
Leave the fastener in.
Or that too, yeah.
Or you leave the fastener in. But the big thing is you do have to hit the studs on this. Looking over the US spec, which is going to be different than ours. I didn't see wood studs on there, and I'm not sure why, but we are steel. You can put this over top of masonry, CMU. You don't have a limit to do this.
Yeah, for those designers or even masons, your backup wall design is pretty similar to a more traditional thin veneer system that you do. So it's an L over 360 deflection design, which is basically a 16-inch on center spacing max, and your fasteners are usually an 8-inch on center. And that's pretty typical when we're doing our EIFs over plywood or OSB. That's our typical, that would be a typical design used for EIFs over wood. So nothing really changes in that sense there.
Yeah. Any other questions? I wish we could do this in person.
Soon.
Yeah. Obviously, one major benefit to this is that you're getting your continuous insulation behind the veneer stone, and we're seeing a lot more requirements for that these days.
It's not just your continuous insulation, and I'm not, Matt, it's a good point, but just it kicked off another thought. You're also getting your air moisture barrier as continuous. You're also getting 5-year moisture infusion on your air barrier. You're also getting a warranty for the system that we offer that I don't know if any other mason companies do that or manufacturers offer that. It doesn't exist. So this one will exist. I'm not sure. I don't think Bob is yet what the actual warranty will be for this. I'm going to guess 10. But like we said, that'll all come out in the spec. When the spec comes out in the future, and we'll be more refined and more ready to go. This, like Bob said, this is just a sneak peek at what's coming out and what's available. So we do have minimal information on this to hand out, but I'm going to say within a reasonable amount of time, you will see it come out to you and upload it on our website.
Yeah, and I'll just emphasize the question about the penetrations. That's part of our standalone Stogard liquid applied air moisture barrier. We have 2 listings. One is a sheathing membrane and one is a liquid applied air moisture barrier. And in both cases, that includes mechanical penetrations through that gold coat layer. And as Tim points out, if you're backing out a fastener, obviously that precludes it. But it includes brick ties and screws going through that because it's approved as a sheathing membrane and air moisture barrier as a standalone, meaning you can put other cladding systems over top of it. It's a standalone air moisture barrier system. Oh, question here, Yogi. Why 7 days for the adhesive to cure?
It's to get it to cure out behind this stone and to make sure that no other moisture is in there that'll get trapped. You do not want to trap any moisture in there, which is why you also should clean out the joints. So there's not as much mortar and adhesive back there. It's just, I'm going to say precaution to make sure that it's totally dried out. If you're going to be out in the West Coast, I'm going to say it's probably going to be a little bit longer. But for here, with the high humidity we have here too in the summer, that 7 days is there. And I'm sure that 7 days is there to cover most markets, but every product will have its own limits.
All right.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Hey guys, sorry, I wasn't sure if Albino, I saw you mentioned it, just cleaning it. Just standard acid won't remove the grout or anything like that? Like a diluted acid?
Yeah, muriatic acid would.
Right. Like you would have to refer to your veneer stone manufacturer because it is a masonry veneer. It's not an acrylic product. So if your veneer manufacturer says you can use a certain cleaner, then you can go ahead and use that.
I see. So it doesn't affect anything from Stowe's end. Okay.
Yeah, no, like these ones are from Stone Rocks.
Yeah, those are good. Yeah.
And there's many manufacturers of that. Stone Rocks is kind enough to help us out with our demo today, so give them a plug.
We're happy to help.
There you go.
But in terms of a cleaner, I mean, for us, a lot of masonry veneers, if you use an acid, oftentimes just because the coloring is only on the face, sometimes that will deteriorate the face coloring. So just be careful in what you're using in terms of cleaning off any leftover cement or mortar on the actual facing of the products.
I'm guessing that's Derek, right?
That is Derek. Yeah, you got it. First try.
At least you heard right. I gave you a plug, so
I appreciate that. Thank you.
What about dry stack? Well, I got you guys here.
Dry stack?
Does it change the bond, like sticking, like adhesion rate and the weight per square foot?
Well, dry stack, we're not there yet. We're just doing veneers, not dry stack. We're doing mortar. I know in the States there is no dry stack in the spec, and I don't think there will be here.
They do have it in Europe, so it's something we can look at if there's a demand for it. I know some of the veneer systems, masonry systems that have been around for years in Europe include the dry stack.
Mhm.
So we have some information that we can share and experience there if that's an interest for our customers here in Canada.
I can say it will be out west, Bob.
Okay. All right. We'll put that into the R&D efforts that we're doing now just to finalize the spec. I don't know if it'd be in the first version of the specification that'll be out in about a month or two, but it's something we can look at adding as soon as we can translate the experience we have with those dry stack systems in Europe over to Canada.
I just want to make sure we got everybody questions if there was there. No, we're good. Joe figured out how to turn his mute off, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Too bad.
Okay.
I was very busy. Sorry, guys. I've been watching though.
One thing, this doesn't have to be on Stotherm CI. It could also be on our power wall system. Is that right? And our quick.
And most veneers that we have don't have to be on a Stotherm CI. We prefer it because we get to sell more product. But they can go on retrofit applications. They can go on, like we said, CMU directly applied to it. Any sound structure, you can't put it directly on top of plywood. No. Interior, yeah, 100%. Any one of the veneers that we have, you're allowed to put on interior. If there's a doubt, give one of us a call. We'll just say yes or no in a nice way. If it's me, I'll do it nice. If it's Greg, he'll probably be mean. Coming on you, Greg.
I try my.
That's Scott free today. So.
I'm not sure if you pointed out there, Bob, as well with the Ecoshapes. When you start going above, I like doing the harder veneers on the lower floors, and then as you get up higher, a big advantage of that is it's less deflection, and the Ecoshapes will take out the requirements for angles and less concrete and other structural elements that can add some real cost savings to an overall project.
There's less load. And Tim, that's one of the reasons why I put this band here, was trying to separate a lower level to go a little bit higher. I wasn't successful in finding a Ecoshape that could come close to matching this one. To complement them both, I just like this one as my favorite. This one reminds me of my son's diaper when he was younger. I didn't want to put that one on there. Yeah, so these do take a lot of the load off, and with restrictions per province, this is a great base to go to start.
That's a good, having the band here. A lot of the especially residential projects, you usually see like a skirt around the bottom with stone, and then you have sill of some sort, and then eaves above. Well, this means you can do the same air barrier, same foam, incorporate a molding as the sill, and just the same contractor can do it all at once, which is a pretty awesome advantage.
And you can go up to 50 feet. Is that correct?
No, you have to check with your local jurisdictions. There will be some limitations just because of certain testing requirements for within those jurisdictions. Most of the time, it may be something like first story or seconds up to 2 stories, right?
All right.
Yeah, and that would apply to any masonry veneer. It's not just specific to this system. It's any masonry veneers used in those markets. I know in Montreal it's 6 meters. In some other markets, I've heard 6 meters. You're limited in those jurisdictions. And the other thing is, once you get up to the 2nd and 3rd floor, where you're not going to be looking at the veneer from 6 inches away, moving to an Ecoshape option gives you a more cost-effective solution, a lighter solution, a faster installation solution. It's also a more ecologically friendly solution. The embodied carbon, the embodied energy in Ecoshapes, the eco in Ecoshapes is because it's such a lower impact product compared to a traditional ceramic clay masonry that's fired at 1,000 degrees Celsius and takes a lot of energy to transport to the site. These Ecoshape's products have a much, much lower carbon footprint. So that's becoming more and more of an issue. So if you have a 12-story building and you only have the masonry veneer on the first floor, you've got 11 stories of a much more environmentally friendly solution that looks like the masonry once you get into the second and third floor and up. All right.
Looks like no more questions.
Anything that does come up, I think everyone has their favorite stow rep, or maybe a couple on their speed dial that they can pick up the phone anytime they want, or shoot an email or text and ask any questions. Like I said at the beginning, we will have this up on our website as a full system with all the supporting documentations and specifications and test data. It's just not there now. If I had to guess, I'd say it'd probably be up there by April. So give us another month, maybe two, before all that documentation's there. If you need it in the meantime, it's all being drafted in its final stages of completion. Just reach out to your local stow rep and we'll get you what you need.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Yo. Thanks, Derek.
Thank you, Yogi.
Thanks, guys. It was awesome.
Enjoy the rest.
Thank you guys. Yeah, excellent.
See you guys.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was very good.